All right, howdy, folks. I really appreciate all the brave people who decided to stick with this conversation through the afternoon. It's awesome. I'm looking forward to what we can accomplish. My name is Jeremy Huff. I'm here with Stephen Pampel, with Charlotte and Martin online, moderating for us online. We are going to attempt to do a hybrid discussion-based workshop. So let's see if this works. The online folks are going to be have their conversation conducted by Martin and Charlotte. We are going to mute them and mute ourselves and just check back in. If it works, it's going to be awesome, and if it doesn't, it will probably be at least humorous. So just a quick show of hands, and maybe so the folks online, you can indicate this. If you have not either been in the last presentation that we just did on this or looked at the Community Directed Development Framework document, so if you haven't looked at the document and you have not, or you were not in the session or are not familiar with it, there have been actually several council meetings about it. So let me just say this. Raise your hand if you're not familiar with the Community Directed Development Framework. So we got a few people. Okay. I got a quick overview. It's just a few slides. The people who were in the last presentation are going to wonder when I do in 3 minutes what they had to sit through 40 minutes. I'm like, why did you just do that version a little while ago? So basically what we're going to do, I'll just do a quick little overview of what it is that we're talking about. And then we're going to break up into groups. And these groups are going to be, you're going to get to self-identify. There's 4 major components to the community directed development framework, and I'm just by show of hands going to find out who wants to talk about what. If we don't talk about one of the components, that's fine. I want y'all to talk about what you're interested in talking about, and we'll divide up into groups of maybe 3 to 5. You will be guided through a discussion on the 3 questions that you hopefully answered in the form that you filled out in the last session, or you know, the questions will be up on the screen here. And then after we have some time to talk about that, you'll have an opportunity to report back to the room. Okay. We all know these QR codes are not working, but there's a link to the document. Just a quick overview. Basically, there were 3 major proposals on the topic of community-directed development in general. One by Mike Gorell, one by Tom Kramer, one by myself via the Community Directed Development Working Group. And we, in the working group, decided that it was a great opportunity to try to synthesize the major concepts from those 3 documents into a 4th proposal, the CDDF, Community Directed Development Framework. It's composed of these 4 major categories: funding, governance, communication, and process. The funding components basically are just looking at a pool of funds that the community has that they can distribute at will towards development efforts. The governance is very much centered around the existing councils in FOLIO performing a role in this process, and we will talk about what those roles are. And we are also looking at introducing some tools in order to carry this out. One is a dashboard where you can see the community priorities. We saw a preview of that already. Another one is a marketplace where you can see approved developers that have agreed to participate with this process. And then another one is a dashboard to see our process element in play, which is the DIP, the same one that's featured here. That's just been brought forward basically with some small modifications into the framework. We are proposing that all of the resources, both in-kind contributions and monetary contributions, be normalized into an abstract concept called the Community Resource Point, or a CRP. And that all development costs, both support-oriented and new development costs, be scored on components within the system. And we view the 3 councils kind of playing the following roles. We see funding on the far left side there. Those get converted, the different funds, into community resource points by the community council, which then proposes a budget for a development cycle. or like a fiscal cycle. The product council is responsible for spending those community resource points on either support or development. And the technical council is responsible for determining what the support score and development score are for the modules and components within our system. Highlights of this process are that we are proposing that we always pay for the support score for the components that we are participating with in the community. So we must do that. One thing that I guess I missed a slide, but we're also suggesting that all the components in our system be broken up into core, community, and participating components. Both the core and community components are paid for through the community development framework. Participating are not eligible to receive funds, but they are still very much a part of FOLIO and will continue to be developed in the same way that we have been doing development in FOLIO. That is the incredibly fast version of like a 17-page document. So groups. Here's how we're going to do this. If you are interested, remember the 4 topics are funding, governance, communication, and process. So the process is the DIP, the communication pieces are the dashboards, the governance pieces are the new roles and responsibilities that governance is going to play, and then the funding is the various sources where we hope to be able to pull funds together in order to support this process. If you are interested in talking about funding, raise your hand. And that is fine. If you are, especially at 4 o'clock. If you are interested in talking about the governance component, raise your hand. All right, so let's see. Keep your hands up. I have 1, 2, 3, 4. Guess what? You guys are a group. I suggest that y'all find a corner of this room to have this discussion, but don't start until we're done grouping up. But I mean, you can move if you want. But all right, if you are interested in talking about the communication component of this, these are the various dashboards that we have proposed. Raise your hand. And if you are interested in talking about the process element of this, which is basically the DIP, raise your hand. Okay. All right. This is time to start assigning people. I am going to suggest from Darcy back to Mark, 1, 2, 3, 4. You guys are a process group to discuss the process. And let's see, we had 4 here. 1, 2, 3, 4. They're going to also self-select, but they are going to be one group. The online people are going to be on. Oh, you decided? Great, and I think you 3 right here, you 2, yeah, and you can come up here and talk about the governance component. Yeah. Oh. Okay. Actually, if you've been grouped up, can you already move into your group? This will help me. Stephen, yes, sir. How would you feel about participating with this group back here? Okay.
If you'd like me to get on a group, I will do that.
Yeah. All right, so we have funding over here, governance over here.
The responses for the last session as a guide for the areas. Yeah.
No, not yet. Tell you what, I'm going to call an audible. If you are unfamiliar with the community-driven development framework and you want to become more familiar with it, I will have a discussion group right here in this corner where I will go over what's involved in that. I'd be happy to do that, and that might be a more interesting conversation than picking it apart. All right. Okay. Charlotte and Martin, are you guys ready to facilitate the online group?
Yeah.
Yes,
All right, so
we
I
are
will mute
checking
my
in on the
microphone.
topic to talk about. Yes.
And mute my microphone and turn off our audio, and I'll check back in with you guys.
Yeah, that's what they're talking about.
Oh, you get to pick which one. You just discuss with the online folks which one you guys want to talk about. All right, I'm handing it over to y'all.
So yeah, sorry, Martin, go ahead.
It's okay. So we have one thumbs up from Uda for communication, and also from you, Charlotte, and one for funding from Jason. Yeah. So what do you want to talk about? I mean,
I'll defer to communication since there's not many
okay.
of us online.
Yeah, so that's what I wanted to say. So we're only a group of 4 people. We can just, I mean, we can start with communication, and if we are done, we can switch to funding.
Good.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So do you have any comments or certain proposals for communication that go in the direction of the 3 questions? What works well, what needs work, what work is what should be done next, or anything other?
Yeah, I guess, I mean, I probably, oh, sorry, Jason, go ahead. You had your hand up. I can always talk later.
Oh, no. Go right ahead, please.
Yeah, I was just going to say that I am not as super involved in the sort of folio specifics. I'm wondering how much of I'm looking at the communication section of the development framework doc, and I'm wondering how many of these things are highlighted on the front page of the wiki or somewhere kind of obvious. Like I'd heard of the community priorities dashboard because that was at an earlier session. I've never heard, I think, of the development initiative proposals dashboard. I have some semblance of what a developer marketplace is, kind of. But I mean, I think if it might be useful to figure out how to communicate these areas more widely across the community. So it isn't just like if you're involved in it directly, you would know about it. And obviously the conference is a great place to do that, and we're learning about that. But perhaps through the wiki, I don't know if when there's those community-wide calls or updates that they do. And I don't know if Folio has anything like a newsletter. Perhaps I'm the wrong person to talk about communication because I'm like, I don't hear about these things, but I thought I would bring them up because it sounds like they're interesting areas for perhaps getting more engagement from people. So that's just what I had. And Jason probably had a better, more cohesive thing to say.
Oh, no, you're good. For what it's worth, what I had my hand up for, in the Folio community, it's always been an interesting struggle with communicating just across the board, let alone anything with actual outcome tied to it. I think we've gotten a lot better over the years about organizing as a community. And a lot of like the developer driven communication kind of circulates, around Jira, around GitHub issues, around the developer docs and all of that stuff. But I really have always been confused about how things are prioritized and how those priorities are communicated out from either contributing members to the OLF or from just community participants at large. You know, in the JIRA, there's the priorities and the impacted institutions and all of that stuff. And it's like magic to me that goes on behind the scenes about how that stuff gets directed and and taken care of and funded. You know, I originally voted for the funding part of it because like a big thing Folio struggles from is non-functional requirements and how that gets funded. And right now it really doesn't. It's pretty much to each of their own. If you figured it out and make it easier for anybody else, please share it. So that's, for what it's worth, that's what I had to say.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, I think.
Mm.
And you mentioned Jira, and they had the. Oh, sorry, Charlotte, were you saying something?
So I just wanted to have a short comment to what you said, Huda, that I totally agree that if this is taking form and it is decided we are moving on with community-directed development, then it should be communicated very widely. But right now it is, you can say, a proposal being discussed with the councils and proposal now being presented here at WOLFcon. And next step would, I totally agree, should be a communication on a something you almost can find on page 1 on the wiki. So definitely. And
I want to add that, I mean, the community priorities dashboard is already in place, as you mentioned. But I take it away that it would be good to have it maybe actually at the starting page of Folio in the wiki as well. I think it's not mentioned there. It's just, I mean, it's, as Jason said, it may be a bit of arcane knowledge that this exists at the moment. So we should get it out more. I mean, I think this would be really something you can get going.
Yeah, that makes sense. Thank you, both of you. Jason, you mentioned the JIRA issues, and I think I was looking at the community priorities dashboard. I think they had a session yesterday. And yeah, I think that was very JIRA issue driven as well. Like, you know, here are the sort of the top priorities by group, but it's essentially a set of like 5 or 6 JIRA issues. And I was wondering, as someone who may not necessarily, and again, I might be the wrong audience member for this, but I was looking at that thinking, it'd be nice if I had maybe a human readable summary of these topics instead of having to, you know, go into each JIRA issue separately and like really try to understand it. So, you know, maybe something like we're going to be working on, you know, user accounts are a big thing, and that's just said very clearly and concisely, or whatever specific area of user accounts people are interested in, as opposed to like, here's a table of JIRA issues, which I think is great for an operational level, like for people actually working on these issues. But if you just want to get a sense of where this community is headed, having just a sort of a little bit of text might be helpful.
Yeah, I think part of that is answered by like JIRA epics, where they kind of tie in all of these, you know, separate issues together under one large umbrella. The epics can get pretty long and messy, you know, as can the JIRA tickets associated with them. But I think that's one tool JIRA has to kind of see more overview things. Correct me if I'm wrong, Charlotte, you've got way more experience with epics than I do on that part.
So epics in JIRA is more or less just a heading, and then we have associated all the UXProt features to that given epic. So yeah, I love your description, Jason, but it's not really how it is in JIRA actually. But but I agree that a written up textual document in a scope for each of the releases would be really nice. But why we have, and I am probably one to blame for that, is that I preach if things does not exist in Jira, it doesn't exist. And that's, so if the 6 or the PC is only doing written up documents, then that's not something a development team would ever pick up. So it needs to get into the Jira pipeline in order for a development team to be able to do time estimating or story pointing, or figure out is this work we need to do a spike on before we start the real development, and so. But we probably we're discussing here communication and how can we do better. So I like the idea of a textual document living alongside with also UX part features and Jira item work, which is framing the specific work to be done.
Yeah, I recognize that Jira is really important. Yeah, not even like a long thing, just like a couple of sentences, like we're focusing on these areas or that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Jason?
Yeah, Charlotte, you remind me, we used to have things like community available storyboards, I guess, for like UX features and stuff like that. Are those things still around? Are they still being used? Those were sometimes communicated out to the various SIGs about, requested UX stuff, especially around like when Folio was originally going through its MVP validation.
So today, you can say that there is different types of Jira dashboards being maintained. So there is a dashboard for MMSIG related topics. There's a dashboard for, I think, specific for data import. There's a dashboard for...
Charlotte, I'm just checking in with you guys. How is everything going?
It's going good.
Yep.
How much time do we have?
We're at a 10-minute mark, so we're transitioning from... honestly, people are just kind of talking about what they feel like, but based on the structure we talked about before, we're transitioning into focusing on this work and the proposal. But, if you guys are in the middle of a good conversation, please feel free to continue to talk about whatever y'all are talking about.
Okay.
Awesome.
Thanks. So we have a dashboard specific for the different flower releases. We do have thematic scoped dashboards maintained typically by the SIGs. And then I think I'd say for specific development initiated by library, and here, for instance, National Lab of Sweden, the work they need for their go live. Here I maintain, of course, a dashboard for them.
Awesome. Thanks. Yeah, my memory was rusty on that one.
I was wondering, yesterday on the Folio roadmap group presented the roadmap, and the roadmap group also has this kind of dashboard where you have human readable descriptions of what is going to be implemented or what is scheduled to be implemented. Is that going into the direction that you meant, Huda? I mean, do you want more or something else? I'm just wondering.
I'm trying to look at, did they have slides? I don't think I was there at that one.
Okay, yeah. But I mean,
Oh, I see
it
the
was
roadmap
this.
link though. Let me look at that. Yeah, so if I look at this, I'll put it in the chat, which I'm sure everybody already has that, but they have like an 18-month outlook and then they go by the different SIGs. And yeah, those are lists and a little bit easier to read. So yeah, maybe something like that. I mean, it could even be shorter than that. It could just be like, we really want to clean up, like for instance, the cross app has a lot of bulk edit stuff. It could just be like, we need to clean up bulk edit for whatever reason, and improve that. It could be as short as that. It doesn't even have to be a list.
Mhm.
But yeah, I think this one's a little bit easier to read. And I can get a good idea of what people are thinking about anyway. And they link to the detailed roadmap in Jira, which is good.
Okay. Do we want to try to wrap up? I don't remember. What did Jeremy say?
So we are to give a short summary of our conversation in plenum. But were we also to discuss slide 6, you think, Martin?
Oh, you mean the funding topic?
No.
Or which slide 6? I don't know which one you refer to.
Yeah, the abstraction layer, was that what he talked about when he opened the mic? So that's so in the slide deck for the workshop, but now but I'm not sure if I probably cannot share now, but there was
did he say that we should also talk about that, or
I put it in the chat, the slide link.
I'm afraid I totally forgot about what he said. How long they are going to discuss there, and
I think he said like 10-minute mark, and that was like 5 minutes ago, right?
Okay.
Do we want to? Do we have more we want to mention regarding communication, or should we talk a little about funding, which Jason also raised?
To wrap up what we have said about funding at the moment is, so one thing is that communication in general about what is being developed and funded, and how things are prioritized at the moment is not well documented, or is definitely it could we should have these human readable how to say summaries of things that are going to be developed, and all of that should be communicated clearly, maybe on the main page of the wiki, so that everyone can access the information and stumbles across this information quite easily. Is that what we said, more or less?
Sounds right. Yes. Thanks, Martin.
Okay. Okay, yeah. Then we can discuss about funding and about the.
So one of the things we have in the working group working on this is also that the scope of what we can take on for development, of course, will be determined by how much funding we can raise. So these things tie into each other. So it's very difficult to say for certain what it is we are to include in the community directed development when we still are not 100% sure about, okay, what is the numbers here? How much money do we have to spend? Do we have available for spending? And that, of course, also will tie into that we need to talk a bit about, okay, what is it we want to work on? So describe the projects in order for the libraries to say, okay, this is something I will prioritize to pay for.
Yeah, Charlotte, and I think a part of what goes on there, like no one likes talking about money. You know what I mean?
No.
It's like in any organization, no one likes to talk about money. You go to church, they ask for the offering. You know, everyone, it makes everyone feel awkward, I feel like. But I do think one of the things that the OLF community at large can do is maybe market more about like, member institutions that are already here and paying, and also recruiting new member institutions to be like, hey, look, with your funding fees or whatever, maybe a certain percentage of it goes to, this type of, community development driven stuff, or maybe, have like a line items like, well, if you'd like to participate and contribute, by all means, please, here's what we have going on. Here are the dashboards with this work that hasn't been scheduled yet, but that apparently is in high demand. Maybe one of the things you need as a library is on this board. Maybe we can come to an arrangement. So, but I feel like that side of it, from my experience, it's not like really out there. You know what I mean? Like I just can't go to the Folio wiki and see, hey, getting started as a member library, funding, projects, blah, blah, blah. So that's just my opinion. I know there's another SIG out there where, um, the funding torch is passed around and to try to garner uh, contributions from member organizations and organizations that aren't necessarily members. So I'm not trying to dismiss that work at all. I think that's very valuable.
Mm.
Okay. Um, do we have any other topics, comments?
I mean, Jason might already have said this, but I think in a way it kind of all connects, right? Like, what do we need funding for and why? So if we're able to communicate things like the roadmap and the priorities, maybe people can figure out, like, one of the funding categories is pooled funding. So if you have a bunch of institutions that either are in a consortium or just even individually say, we really need this particular thing, at least they need to know about the fact that there's more than one person who wants to do that. So communicating that more effectively, but then also having someone be able to say, this is the amount of money that you will need. either in developer hours or in infrastructure costs of some kind. And then maybe they can figure out how to split that up. I am even less better at money than I am at the communication part. So that's just what I think.
Folks, I hope conversations are going well online. We're transitioning the last phase of the discussion, and it's going to be on what we think the best next steps are in our component area. And then I'll come back and we'll get a chance to hear the responses from the room.
Okay, Martin. So in a way, in our group here, we have not really talked about what works well, what needs works, what work is next. So maybe we should then, if we in our group maybe could talk about what would be the next step.
Yeah.
So
So I have one next step written down that is actually getting the priorities dashboard on the main wiki page. So
Yeah.
this would would be a concrete next step, I think, that we could the PC as the owner of the board could do.
Yeah.
Yeah, what needs work. I think I mean I understand what Huda said about human readable summaries of development work. This is I would classify this as what needs work. And maybe having the broader pictures to have some kind of easy access to these to what is being developed. I think this goes under the DIP dashboard on the in the framework. Yeah, so and what goes well?
You can say what works well is that we have the priority dashboard now, where with input from the 6 that we didn't have 6 months ago. So that's a new thing, and I'd say both you and I are in the product council, and that has kind of made the PC, more aware about what is being requested by the 6. What have they discussed for a long time? What do they want to see, picked up by development teams? So, in the meeting we had before, where Caitlin Stewart also mentioned that the PC has much more product focus now, and can see how the PC fit into what was proposed here today. So I think we are already the community and the councils are already kind of stepping into some of these new roles or lifting the responsibility.
That sounds good. I think, Charlotte, you mentioned how, the fact that the JIRA issues are there are actually really good for developers to understand where to go next. That's probably, I mean, I know I said human readable is good, but having that link there is really useful.
Mm.
Yeah, well, Jason first mentioned that it's some term is kind of magic how things get prioritized and funded. So the priorities dashboard is one thing to, yeah, some kind of take the magic out of the this, no? And the overall funding process would be some kind of I mean, go into the work spark category in the sense that it takes the magic out of funding and prioritizing. Is that right, Jason? Is it okay
Yeah.
for you?
Yeah. That's a
Yeah.
good. Yeah.
Otherwise, I'd say up to now, also because then the prioritization of development of new functionality has been more or less directed by urgency. We have had customers who needed this functionality in order to go live. There's been a lot of development to be able to lift, make a folio ready for Library of Congress to go live. And you can say the new work we are doing for National Library of Sweden for supporting reading room loans is also, they cannot go live on folio if this is not developed. So you can say that urgency for specific new folio libraries have set what was the scope for this upcoming flower release or the next upcoming flower releases. But eventually we will be more mature, and you can say then we should prioritize where where have we neglected areas? Where do we still have thin thread implementation, and we need to evolve and be better than a thin thread implementation?
I mean, this goes too far, but I mean, I wonder if we ever get out of this urgency in the sense that things have to be developed rapidly because some libraries go live with Folio. I mean, as long as we get more libraries, I think there will be some kind of there will be need of new features, other functionality, and so on. So I think the interesting point would be if we can take this urgency out of the main product.
I think, Jason, you also mentioned non-functional requirements, NFRs, and that is very right. That you can say from the PC side, here we often look at visible functionality and not so much the non-functional, and that's kind of something we need to address as well. Right now we have the TC who is taking care where the security team is doing heavy lifting on making sure that all modules are have this high bar for security, so that's kind of important to get alignment on as well.
Yeah, especially with regards to funding those requirements. At the end of the day, most of the technical debt that the Folio project accrues comes from the non-functional side of the house. And it's hard to quantify that sometimes. And it's hard to convey just how expensive some of those decisions can end up costing people, especially when you're looking at, 1, 2, 3, 5 years out.
Yeah. I mean, this would really something to do that needs work, these non-functional requirements.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm so glad that the discussion, at least on this side, has gone really well. And we are going to now do the report back portion. And I'm going to let the online people go first. Does that work for you, Charlotte and Martin?
Yeah.
Oh, let me make sure I can hear y'all.
Oh,
Okay. So
can you hear us?
I can. This is, I gotta be honest, I'm super anxious to find out what you guys decided to talk about.
So we decided to first talk about communication mainly. And
Awesome.
then we also talked a bit about funding.
Okay. Since we have a funding group here, can I just ask you about the communication part?
Yeah.
Okay. So in general, from y'all's discussion, what in the CDD framework, what do you think, what did y'all's group feel like went well with communication?
We all agreed that the priorities dashboard is really a good thing. As Jason said, it takes a bit, it takes the magic out of the process that is going on now. So, I mean, it's being transparent, it's made transparent.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that was the main point.
What about what needs more work?
In communication.
If you want to bounce over the funding, that's all right.
I'm sorry, Charlotte, can you, I got stuck here.
For what needs more work were
Yeah.
that for we want things to be lifted up to the more or less the top page of the wiki page. It is some of this information is buried into sub pages under one of the given councils. So it was suggested that simply it should be communicated more widely and more easily found on the wiki page.
And do you have any suggestions for next steps?
Yeah, and one concrete next step would be to put the priority dashboards, for example, as it exists already on the main wiki page, where everyone can see it prominently, that these are things that that the community has prioritized.
I know that there are people in the room here who are very happy to hear y'all's responses on that, specifically in regards to that community priorities dashboard.
It was also suggested to put in. It was also suggested to write up a newsletter.
I know that that's been talked about. Is that at the council chair level or just at the product council level? Yeah, that's an idea that has been kicked around a little bit recently, so that's cool to hear. Thank you guys so much, online folks, for your participation. All right, I said we had a funding group here, but I guess we didn't. You guys were governance. All right, what did we get right about governance? Oh, wait. Do we have a mic? Yes. Thank you, Joseph.
Testing. Okay. We like that you are using the existing governance structure didn't create any different levels of complication, so that was really good. And the definitions and the structure is simple at this point, right? Looking at it, like it all makes sense. Once we started talking about sort of like how it would work, then it got
Actually transitioning into the next, but that's fine. It's work.
right. So, right, defining all of the components. So this is something that, you know, folks have tried before. With application formalization, there was this attempt to sort of separate folio modules and apps into various categories. It was overwhelming. There was a huge spreadsheet. I don't know that it ever really got to the point of being useful. So that's going to be it's going to be a ton of work for to me, it looked like a ton of work for the TC, but I think it's going to be a ton of new work, worthwhile work, but just more work. Some of the existing processes are going to need to be.
Incidentally, not a TC member anymore. I don't know if that's coincidental, but
It seems like the PC has the least amount of work in this, Jeremy. So a lot of the existing processes, like the review process that both the PC and the TC do, would have to be modified, you know, when this framework was put in place to happen earlier. And I don't know, but anyway, it would need to change. Again, not necessarily a bad thing, but it would be a change. What else am I forgetting?
next steps.
Next steps, we love the ideas of pilots, maybe even going back to existing folio functionality and modules that are already in place and testing out this framework with those existing, with the existing product to see where the problems might be.
That idea seems like a winner.
Yeah, so.
Awesome. Thank you all so much. And yes.
So one other thing we were thinking about is the support scores, and this is where the TC definitely had some work to do. So we thought it would be great to take some existing modules and start coming up with criteria and assigning support scores and sharing it with the development teams that are actually doing that support.
Right.
Yeah, like, hey, are we in the ballpark of the amount of time and effort that you're spending on support, or what other things do you think you would put in? So
that's a great idea. I do think that if the TC wants to move forward with these ideas, my suggestion to them would be to derive an algorithmic approach to the application of support scores, and then allow for an approval process, an appeals process, and you know to be initiated if if that algorithm derives an incorrect score. I think that might be the least labor-intensive way to go about it. Just a thought that had occurred to me previously. Thank you all so much. And we were talking about not funding process. All right. What do we get right? What works well with the ideas here on process?
Well, everybody seems to love the dip process, so your 700 dip is a hit.
It always is.
That's right. You've never heard 700 dip really is good. Okay. So we kind of have a list of concerns around the process. And first of all, the last comment I wanted to make was the comment that Caitlin made was, regardless of where the CDDF goes, she thinks the DIP process is gold and we should keep it. So, all right.
Nice.
First risk of underestimating costs for the RFP process, where we might get stuck in a doom loop there of underestimating costs and not finding vendors to take up initiatives during RFP. The TC may not be equipped to estimate the cost accurately. There aren't a lot of developers on the TC, or at least none that could do this kind of cost estimating. That was a concern. For the DIP stage 1, there's a desire to have it reviewed by a product owner, or maybe assigned to a SIG before it moved forward in the process.
Yeah, so you're right. Stage 2 is about iterative refinement, which implicates the councils, but the councils probably don't have the capacity to if this ramps up and is at full speed. So it might be one of the statements that's made in the document that wasn't made in the proposal is this idea that the councils are responsible for these things, but they, like with everything the councils have the ability to delegate and form other groups to kind of carry out some of these tasks, which might be necessary to do.
So one proposal for the estimating phase was a discovery phase for costing, so that there would be adequate time for maybe a vendor to offer up an estimate for the cost of the project before it moved forward for an RFP, so that we would have an actual estimate from a vendor instead of just kind of ballparking it in the TC or whatever delegated group that we'd have. So, and the last was the big one, the legal and financial risk of having this many agreements to manage, and the risks of having, like, let's say a vendor let's say a vendor is in the middle of a contract and they collapse, right? They go out of business, and now we're kind of stuck with this quagmire of, well, somebody commissioned this development. We didn't MOU with them to deliver this development. We didn't deliver it because the vendor went under, like, what's our liability, or is there a way to indemnify? I mean, there's all these questions, right, about this process that would probably not just have to get handled at the FOLIO level, but maybe at the OLF level.
Yeah.
So
that's a really good point. Okay. Next steps. Did y'all get there? I did ask y'all to talk about next step.
The one thing that I think everyone agreed on was they like the dip, and they'd like to see that go forward.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, we're down at the end. I just want to say one thing, kind of a final thought. This is in the document. I might have already said this. Forgive me if I did, but I think it's worth saying again. One of the things that I think that brought many people to FOLIO was the idea that this product that we're building was intended to be owned by the people who are using it, a community-owned product. But I don't personally believe, and I think one of the reasons why all these conversations are happening, actually, that we have achieved that vision. I think that we have very invested and engaged users, but a user and an owner is not the same thing. You don't derive ownership through usage. You derive ownership through taking responsibility for something. And I think that what all of the ideas that have been thrown out here about community-directed development, they're about taking ownership over this, taking responsibility for it. And I am so happy that you guys are engaging with these ideas. I think it's really cool. I can't wait to see what happens next. What we commit to do, Charlotte, yes, please.
Oh, I just have a very quick comment to Stephen's comment about that. What if a vendor is going out of business, and what about the code that vendor has contributed with and now is not able to maintain? FOLIO has a very advanced, set of how code is being written. So you can say any development team who is able to contribute with FOLIO code can. There can be a little learning curve for the developers to understand that given code, but it is possible. So it is not that code is being very isolated and only one vendor can maintain that code. I know we have some areas of FOLIO modules that is a little different from how most of the FOLIO modules are being built, but it is definitely possible to be picked up by a new or different vendors.
Thank you for that, Charlotte. We're at time. What we intend to do, ideally, I have a spreadsheet that all your responses went to, and we have captured a lot of those ideas. This session was recorded, so we captured your feedback from that. The community-directed development working group hopes to take those responses and use that to iterate on this framework proposal, and we fully intend to pursue this at the council level and seeing potentially next steps, engaged with as a community. Thank you all so much. Thank you.